All right. Living in the obvious next step. This is a idea that has been coming at me or coming through me from a variety of sources, and it really is the answer as I observe everything. And here's what I'm talking about. So, living in the obvious next step, most people are, myself included, we want to, let's say, oh, I want to get leaner. Okay. A desire comes up from somewhere. Okay. The desire to get a better body that looks good, that feels good. That desire pops up, and then something fear based triggers a bunch of questions. Well, I don't know if I can do this 2 months from now, or what am I going to do when I go on vacation? Blah, 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 blah. All of these different, oh, my knee is like this, blah, 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 so I can't do that, and blah, blah. I got stitches on my left thumb, and blah, blah. Okay. All of these seemingly very legitimate questions are popping up at right after the point of the desire. Now, what this does, it actually prevents any type of action, any type of movement. And so and by the way, if you actually know, um, if you have gained success in this area, you know that most of those questions are irrelevant. And the real answers to those questions are not going to be helpful to the person who's a beginner, who has never gotten results and never gotten sustainable results. So you don't even have the context, but to understand the answers to the questions that you're asking. And secondarily, what you realize is that if you just start taking the next step, a lot of the questions kind of disappear on their own. They resolve on their own. A lot of the concerns that we have don't actually end up being real. And so this is a very, very, this thing has changed my life because I was in some areas that I haven't paid attention to still, prevents any type of progress because you're sitting around asking questions that you think are legitimate and rationalizing them to yourself, and where in fact if that desire, you want to fulfill that desire, what you have to do is just look at what is the very next step, do that next step, and that will reveal to you insights. That will reveal to you a question that actually might be helpful, because no question without stepping into it, into the activity, is going to be relevant because you have no experience, you have no context. I was talking to a client, she owns a bar in Arizona, and and she's super successful, and she asked me all these questions about, losing weight and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, look, I understand what you're saying, but let's say this. Like, let's say, I wanted to open a bar and a successful bar. And I started asking you a bunch of questions. You'd look at me and be like, "What would you say?" And she said, "Well, I would say first, let's actually spend a week working at the bar and actually doing the things, because you don't actually know what questions to ask. And there's no way, that person who's a beginner could ask questions that will benefit them. Whereas okay, what would be a if I wanted to open a bar, what would be the next logical step? I hit up my friend who owns a bar, say, hey, can I come work for you and just shadow, or you can tell me whatever I need to do for the next week. When I do that, all of a sudden, I have valuable context and experience to where now the question that I ask is going to be useful to me. All right. And there might be questions that I was thinking about or concerned about that when I spent that week there, those questions might just dissolve because I realized, oh, that's not actually a thing. And so the same thing goes with training and nutrition. It's like, do the next logical step. Stop worrying about all of the things, okay? And Whether that next step is, going to a class, going to Barry's boot camp, going in for a class, going to a CrossFit, going to wherever, hiring a coach, then only the next logical thing, not a month from now, 2 months from now, 3 months from now. And allowing yourself to stay open so that you can receive information and see it and not be blind or blinded by your questions and your fear, right? Basically that's what it is like when you don't take action, it's and you have all these questions, it's because you're afraid. But look, even if you know you hire a coach who's not a good coach, now you have valuable information like, oh, this person did XYZ, I know what to look for in another coach. Simple. It's a process that will continue if you continue to take the next logic. In that case, let's say this person is just doing crazy things, which there are coaches like that. Then you're like, the next logical step is like, hey, I'm going to be ending my blah blah blah, thank you, and now you move to the next one, right? Whatever it is. So as long as you stay open, keep taking next logical steps, you will be continuously moving towards the fulfillment of that desire, right? I'll give you, one more example because I think examples are always helpful. So I manage convenience stores as well as part of my family business, and one of the locations, what I've started to do is like, if I'm like, okay, obviously our goal is to increase revenues, and um, and so there's a variety of things that we can do, or we can try a product. Here's the thing. I can sit here and try to like look at all the demographics and like ask questions and figure out, ask the salesperson like, how well does it sell, this, that, and the other, and okay, that's fine. Or if I want to test something, the next logical step would be, let me test this thing, right, for 2 weeks, for 3 weeks, and then I have actual data. Oh, that actually didn't work. Okay, cool. Now I move on. Or I might find out, oh my God, this works fantastic, and so now I can double down on that. But I would not have the answer or the insight by just sitting around discussing it. The best, the most accurate answer will be execution of that idea, right? Actually doing it. Actually doing the next obvious step and living in the next obvious step. If something doesn't work, the next obvious step is to not do it anymore and take note of that, right? And then you start to see patterns of like what things work, what things don't work, blah blah blah. So, anyways, living in the next obvious step, I think is one of the most important things if you want to fulfill any kind of desire, whether that's improving a skill, whether that's completing a task or a project. And I didn't talk about this in the email I sent today, but it also eliminates overwhelm and anxiety because you get busy moving in the world. You're not sitting around thinking of and imagining 50 million different negative scenarios. You literally cut through all of the overwhelm, all of the, you know, um, anxiety by moving into action with the next logical step. So I think that's another piece that, people are always filled with anxiety and this and that. It's like just live in the next obvious step, allow it to reveal the next one, and pretty amazing things begin to happen. That being said, I also shared today the Winter Willy Wonka Shred program, which I do every year. And I usually I work with two people, and so we have a group of three, me and two people, and we get to know each other super well. And it's 3 months, and the goal is to get extremely lean going into and coming out of the holiday season versus what people typically do, which is they get fat over the holiday season. So, if you're interested in that, shoot me a message, Ranbir at sanjosebarbell.com, or find me on Instagram, ranbir.sanghera. Mention Willy Wonka. Typically, that program is just around like $9,400 for 3 months, but my birthday's coming up, my 35th birthday, so doing a little birthday discount. So it's basically a third of that, $3,535.35. Um, so if you're interested in that, shoot me a message, and let's get shredded for the new year. Um, and just some more details about the program. Like, we get to know each other super well. We talk every day. We go over each day's game plan. Like, that's literally living in the next obvious step. And so it's really cool for yeah, every year, like, our group of three. It's like it's such an awesome experience, and we go deep because I don't. It goes much more than just surface level, because part of the process is highlighting and challenging all of the beliefs and thoughts that keep you where you are, and which most people will not do, because it's just it's uncomfortable, and it's difficult for people to ask you that, and it's not most people's place, right? Like, most people want a pleasant interaction. They don't want to challenge you, and like, it's not their place, which is why this program specifically, and any of my coaching actually is that, because that's what literally pulls you from where you are, to where you could be, where you would like to be. But it's not going to happen with the same thoughts and beliefs that are currently in your head. So anyways, that's that. And yeah.